Well, welcome back, everyone, into the SMITE Founders series. And of course, we are kicking things off now in North America. EMEA wrapped for the day. It's Gore, it's Inbound, and it's a couple of interesting sets. Very, very similar to EMEA. An elimination game up first. Well, elimination, right? I guess in quotes. Team that loses gets knocked down into the last chance qualifier. It's their last chance from that point forward, while the winner will stay afloat in Swiss and potentially get to work their way up towards the top, maybe even make it to playoffs still if you can win this one. You just have a long road ahead of you to do so. But of course, I should mention up front that if you, say, wanted to participate maybe in the tournament, or you just really like the Smite 2 logo, you want to play, it's the new lighting, the game feels great, maybe your favorite gods have been added, are about to be added, you never really know. Now, whatever your reason, well, the good news is you can do exclamation point access in chat right now. You can click on the link, use code SMITE2esports, it's all caps, and you can get yourself a key that is going to give you permanent access to the game, allow you to play the gods that are in the free rotation, and just get you in and grinding now, ASAP. I mean, look, Inbound's playing on stream all the time. Ruin his games or something. Like, the only way to do it is to get... Maybe don't ruin his games. Maybe help him out. Maybe you're really good. You can help lift his elo a little. I don't know. Back and forth.
I need it.
Just get into the game while you can. But Inbound, this is going to be a really, really fun one, I think, because there are a couple of teams, like, you know, I'm going to specifically look at Mr. Play-by-Play, especially as we get into this, because I'm already wanting to jump to the teams, but, you know, we're going to look at, like, the bracket and the schedule specifically so you can see what we're looking at. But, like, this is a team, as you can see from Mr. Play-by-Play, who has fallen down, or sorry, I should say, as you can see from the bracket, Mr. Play-by-Play, who have fallen down here, but also a team that's kind of been plagued with roster changes for the first couple of weeks. Like, you know, that first week they show up, they get 2-0'd by Scrumptious, and if I remember correctly, I think I cast that game. The first game, they didn't have their hunter, and they didn't have their support. So it's just like, you know, you didn't have your carry, you didn't have your duo lane. Next week you have it, but you know, unfortunately for them, they've fallen down this far. And if you are wondering on broadcast where we're looking, it's that bottom red square between Mr. Play-by-Play and Basket of E-Kittens. One of these teams is going to get knocked into the last chance qualifier. And I think this is going to be a good time to try and turn it around. Of course, I've mentioned this match 23 several times. So you might be wondering what the schedule looks like. Well, guess what we're going to be watching here in just a second. Yeah, it's Mr. Play-by-Play and Basket of E-Kittens. Food Drive for Globe taking on Team, but with 5 M's in just a little bit, which that has been a matchup that has just been a treat to watch every time they go against each other, and that includes various tournaments. Tomorrow we'll be watching another O2 matchup, Employment Larpers, Theater Thugs. Someone is getting knocked out. And then the same thing at 5 p.m. tomorrow, just like 5 p.m. today, Cowabunga Name in Progress. Someone from that is going straight to the playoffs. They get a little bit of time off, but also they get the worry out of their mind that they have to grind any longer, anything like that.
Yeah, and these are the important games, as you said. These are your elimination games or your promo games. Do or die at this point for Mr. Play-by-Play and Basket of E-Kittens. And as you said, I mean, we've not really seen Mr. Play-by-Play really play with that complete roster multiple times yet, and it's a newer game. There are similarities from Smite 1, but it's a pretty new game, Smite 2 is. You haven't played as a team for long enough. It's going to be a difficult process to kind of learn, evolve with the meta. There's a lot of patches, a lot of changes that are happening. So, like, a lot of things you got to keep up with. It's not easy, but today they've got to put it together, and they've got to be able to take down Basket of E-Kittens to stay alive.
It's been like juggling plates. I mean, even I'm struggling, and I get paid to keep up with the game. So many changes, and of course, as we get into picks and bans, some of the biggest ones are gods that have been added in, right? And I'll just say it's an alpha. When they come in, they're maybe not going to be 100% clean right now. And so we had to wait a little bit after things like the Baron and the Yamoja got added in. But guess what's available this time around? Baron, Yamoja, things like that. And so I'm watching this with a lot of interest because I'm curious where these gods are going to go. Finrare has been like the ban of the Smite 2 alpha for weeks now, and it feels like for good reason when a lot of people who are playing against him. But the Baron, today it's been kind of 50-50. Some teams have let him through, and I say some, it's not really been 50-50. It's been like 1 versus 4 or something like that, but sometimes he's getting banned, like he is here. Sometimes he's getting picked, but that does mean that, especially with only 2 bans available in the entire game, 1 per team, you've got to let things like Yamoja through and Yamoja's pretty dangerous right now.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of Smite 1's lifetime, Emojo is still considered one of the best gods in the game. So it's really fitting that Emojo's also very good in Smite 2. Not a ton of changes, a little bit more offensive capabilities in her kit, same amount of defensive capabilities. New items, I guess, help her out a little bit, more active, stuff like that. On the other side of things, Basket of E-Kittens locking in this Odin.
Yeah, wow.
If Fenrir is the ban, Odin is the solo laner for 90% of these games because he rarely does get banned. He's just very good at what he does in solo, very safe, farms up, and then he's probably the hardest god to kill in the game currently with just those super low cooldowns. On the opposite side, Hecate locked in. I could rave about how good Hecate looks as this new character. She is the first. Well, her and Mordred were the first two brand new characters for Smite 2, but a bunch of Smite 1 gods getting added. But what Hecate does in mid is so exciting with that ultimate gore.
It's the plays we have seen from Hecate. Like, we were doing this week in Smite clips almost every single time I get the chance. I'm gonna pull in a Hecate ult because, like,
awesome.
She just does. It's just so fun. It's so cool. The setup is insane. Just all of it. It's such a fun god to watch. And like you said, Mordred as well, being one of the new gods that got added. He's got a lot that goes well for him, picking people up, the setup, all that. Of course, you see the rosters. We flew through them. That's just to get in the game as quick as possible. And we can do that right here. Game 1, Mr. Play-by-Play, Basket of E-Kittens. Play-by-play on the left-hand side of your UI. And of course, we'll be seeing the teams do their little wraparound. This has always been really interesting and a fun thing to watch because I feel like at various... If you go to the top level of play, you get this one team that doesn't move around and one team that is 5-man running around. At the, like, bottom, I guess, quote-unquote, right, the O2s, we're getting that exact thing. One team that's just kind of waiting in their spots, and the other team's running around as 5. But then in the middle, you get 2 teams that run around as 5 and just kind of miss each other barely. Sometimes you get a fight. And so nothing too crazy happening, but it is always really interesting to see, like, Basket of E-Kittens already on the prowl, looking to try and get something active, maybe an invade, maybe a kill, just to try and get the ball rolling as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the names on each rosters, Mr. Play-by-Play does have a little bit more of that naming...
like power.
Like name power, exactly. They have players that have played SCC, some of them have played console, won console worlds. You look at the other side, E-Kittens, not a ton of super known competitive players. A few streamers in there, a few just ranked players, Hawk and Sweet. And so it's going to be... We kind of have to make our mark. This is... I've said it a bunch of times. I'm going to say it again. You said it a bunch. This is an elimination best of 3. So try to make that mark early. Group around. Look for something. I like that from the side of Basket of E-Kittens. And I like the comp that they ended up drafting. They first picked that Odin, but they don't put it in solo lane. We get this Anubis solo, which... Last week, we saw a bunch of Anubis solo. It looked so strong. It did catch a few nerfs. The cooldown got a few nerfs also. That was what it was building into. But it's still an exciting god to see in solo lane because it's kind of boom or bust. It's either going to go insane or it's going to just get killed and get ganked and die and be behind and be useless. So eyes on the solo lane, kind of paying attention to this Anubis, paying attention to this Mordred, because a god that can punish really hard is Mordred.
It also means that we get this Odin just like this in the jungle doing damage. Good little jump, good damage all around, but Layers gonna turn it around. Wow. Layers, oh man, he has what he needs, and now the chase down. Good body block, which is not enough to lock down Hawken and get a double. Still, first blood goes the jungler here for Mr. Play-by-Play.
And I like how Layers not necessarily looking for that gank, but just standing around middle just in case something happens. Because if you look at all these lanes, the most vulnerable god is this new Wa. That's the one that's going to be kind of eyes on her. That's who we want to gank if you're Sweet. So it's a good play by Layers to kind of sit around there as a just in case something happens. So Susano's not, well, he's a fine level 1, level 2, level 3 ganker, but he's a really good counter ganker because as soon as you use all your abilities, he's got the damage, he's got the chase potential, and Layers has this blink also. He's going to be able to move a lot of dashes on the Susano combined with that blink, a lot of movement.
Yeah, that's something that I think has been really fun to watch, and in like this concept, and maybe the first few weeks, but like Loki versus Susano matches specifically of like who can rotate faster than the other has been like a really big point in some of these games. And like you said, Layers, with as much mobility that he's going to have, can kind of be all over the place. Has chosen so far mostly sticking around in mid, really just farming up, right? Not a lot you're typically doing sub level 5. But I want to see where he maybe utilizes some of that mobility, especially compared to the Odin, who right now, I mean, he's been doing a wide world tour through the jungle of Mr. Play-by-Play. Now going for a loop, specifically onto Snatty, trying to find the lockdown. Again, you had mentioned it, but has an Anubis behind him. Looks for the stun, finds it. Lockdown seems to be good, and they've got a lot of damage in this small area, but you have to be able to connect it all. Jump forward. Snatty's getting low. No help to be found anywhere nearby, and so Snatty's just trying to buy some time, trying to get out of here, but there's only so much you can do when two guys are chasing you like that. And unfortunately for Snatty, that means he goes down, and Basket of E-Kittens put one up on the board.
And a good play there. Good timing on that gank by Sweet. This is like the time when you want to kill the Mordred. Once he hits 5, he becomes a lot harder to kill. He can separate a lot of distance. Actually, Lair's in the jungle, looks for the damage onto Odin. Sweet barely makes it out, and now Lair's in danger. Anubis damage falls off a little bit. Sweet comes back forward. Lair's, he's dead.
I will admire, and I think we have to admire, there was a moment, once the walls dropped, he kind of realized, I'm dead. Like, I'm not getting out of here. And so his idea was, I'm going to go to the Odin. Like, if I can at least turn around 1 kill, make this 1-for-1, that's going to be worthwhile. Still pulls 3 people over to him, so maybe there's some gains in farm for your team versus the kill. But realistically, again, I have to admire the level-headed play. But this is maybe a little foreboding, because you kind of just mentioned it, and Anubis has been this way forever, but it feels like in SMITE 2, he leans into it even harder. If this guy, I mean, 1-0-1 for Matrix, if Anubis starts to get the ball rolling here, he becomes a much more like threatening figure on the right side of the map than you maybe would get out of what you're getting from the Mordred so far.
Yeah, for sure. And it is funny because Anubis is like a safer character now, but it's almost like because he's a little bit safer with the movement in his one, slightly reduced with the movement, but you still do have the ability to move around.
Yeah.
It's still interesting that I think people have tried harder now to shut him down, even though he's safer than they did in SMITE 1, just because maybe it was the god's not played very much. You kind of forget how much damage he does. Maybe it's an items thing or something like that. Maybe it's he doesn't have 2 relics. Whatever the case is, it is more all in on this Anubis. We got to kill him. We got to put him behind. So far, though, nothing really happening over there, and a Gold Fury getting pulled.
Yeah, impressive call. Moods is going to catch this out. Layers is coming around. Himoja immediately bubble bouncing. Walls up in the sky. Gold Fury goes to Basket of E-Kittens, but the fight afterward might be a different story. Moods is in a little bit of danger. Uses the Riptide. Good disengage. Blink forward. Comes out from Sweet, but again, it just causes a little bit of damage. Does not get the kill. You've got Krim in a good spot. You going to the skies if you're this Jingwei. Pringles needs a few shots, and they're going to find it. 2 for the Fury, and it's a trade. Mr. Play-by-Play still even hunting for a little more. In fact, Pringles at least causing some disruption under the tier 1 tower.
And Gold Fury's always kind of had this issue where you want to get it rolling as quick as you can. You want to get that Gold Fury whenever you can. If you're losing 2 for an early Gold Fury like this, it's just not worth. You're losing farm on the map. You're losing XP. Yes, maybe you're going even in Gold Fury, but you're not farming those waves. Those waves are getting shoved under tower. It is a big advantage there for Mr. Play-by-Play. Not necessarily being on time to actually steal the Gold Fury, just being there to win the fight after. Yeah. And Sweet goes a little bit too far forward, tries to find that kill onto Moods. Maybe a little overcommitted just for that support. I think if they just try to run right away, maybe they can all end up living, but they kind of bait themselves after going for that Gold Fury. And I think one of the biggest mistakes teams make is they get the Gold Fury, they use ultimates on it, and then they try to take the fight after, or they look for something after, and it's always a disaster, Gore. You never, ever want to look for a fight after the Gold Fury, especially when you're using those ultimates. Something that I've kind of seen, though, with this game, and with this meta that's been forming, though, there's been a whole lot of shells. And in this game, we have 3. We've seen games with literal 5 shells on one team, and these teams aren't opting for those. We have a few more selfish relics. We've got a Sunder even again. And Sunder after those big nerfs, when that was kind of deciding the meta, now it feels like Shell's a little bit more strong, and that's the one deciding the meta. But neither of these teams have doubled down on that Shell is OP, we're going to build it. It is, our supports will get Shell. For mid lane, it's Krim will get Shell. And usually when you see Shell out of one backliner, the other backliner also does get it. So interesting there.
Yeah, now, speaking of interesting, pulled back in. Matrix is in a little bit of trouble. Knockup seems to be good. And ult comes out. Oh my god, he's got enough to turn it around. And the lifesteal. I mean, you don't have a lot going for you right now, but enough healing to stay alive and fall back. That is a gank gone wrong for Mr. Play-by-Play.
And that's just a disaster because that's the god you want to put behind. And now 2-0 and 1 Gore up a level, probably going to be up 2 levels even very soon. Has this Chronos Pendant online. The cool thing with the Anubis ultimate now with this Chronos Pendant build is you just use it as soon as it's up. As soon as it's up, you look for a trade, you look to do some damage, and if you don't get the kill, you're doing enough damage that you're bullying them out. And if you do, trade ultimates, you've got this Chronos Pendant advantage, and that's what you have to abuse. So I like Matrix not holding back, not even for a second thinking, I'm going to try to run. I'm going to turn and fight and try to kill Snatty. And a really good Aegis there also by Matrix. The Susanoo damage at this point in the game isn't great. It's fine damage, especially if you can Aegis the main point of his damage, which is that 1, which is exactly what Matrix did. So nice play over there by him. And now he's itemizing into that physical defense. If you thought it was hard to kill this Anubis before, hey, try again. He's got 40 protections.
Yeah, he's going to be surviving a whole lot. And you had already mentioned it, but like an experience lead that is going to just kind of lean into itself a little bit more. You can see it through capturing the totem, getting the war horn, things like that. Like, you just have a lot more success all around. Need to find it one more time. Has the ult, goes for it, but this time it's not going to be enough. Snatty, just enough health to survive. And the Anubis does finally get shut down. So Mr. Play-by-Play finally finds some success over on right. And Gold Fury is going to be coming back soon, so we might see some of this pressure shifted over towards the left side of the map again.
Little play on the Crim, and Crim really doesn't have much here.
Yeah, locked up. Yeah, okay, he's gone. It's admittedly kind of lackluster after they got the cage down.
Definitely.
But a good kill nonetheless for Basket of E-Kittens.
Yeah, that's the problem with Nuwa. Nuwa looks for something in the jungle. Doesn't have that dash, doesn't have that jump to kind of get away. And that's kind of the strength of this Odin is, if you don't have that capability to get out of my cage, especially in the jungle, I have the damage to just solo you very, very quickly. And if you don't burst me correctly, or if your abilities are down from clearing a wave or something, it is not easy to try to get that Odin off of you. Snatty even looking for the invade here. Does have that ultimate though. And that is a very cool ultimate in the fact that you can almost always look for invades whenever you want if your ultimate is up. Because you just have this get out of jail free card where I'm dashing through the walls. And if you're not kind of paying attention to that or blocking off my exit, it's kind of like Surtur looking for proxies, where if you're not preparing and having another person rotate and kind of stopping him halfway, it's just very hard to kill the Mordred. Especially,
when you come to think of it, I mean, you were talking about Crim not having, a leap or a dash or anything like that, but when you're up against like Anubis, Hecate even, like there's not a lot of people who can close the gap if you decide to run through a wall outside of Odin can jump over it, Bacchus could belly flop over it, but like you have to get there and you have to be on point and you have to hope that the Mordred's running through the wall that you leap over at that point. Yeah, so it's just so easy, like you said, to just retreat, get away, stay alive, which is maybe why it comes as no surprise that he's doing well right now. Moods though, walls up in mid, good damage, follow up by layers, gets exactly what you need, kill on the mid, maybe a dive here into the tier 1. It looks like it's going to be only for the tier 1, kill on the Haken. And then a slow burn on the tower, but a burn nonetheless. Gold in pocket. And Mr. Play-by-Play take the first tower of the game.
And getting this tower makes that rotation by Pringles a lot more worth. If he rotates there, they just get the kill. It's not going to feel nearly as good because he's missing that entire wave and left. But Carr able to get that wave, shove it under. Gold Theory now available. And really, it's just Carr here. Is Carr going to be able to put up a fight? Kuzumbo Chan is probably too far away.
I cannot believe it, but he did exactly what he needed to do. Look, Neith, we got to see this a little bit last week. Neith is a very adept at stealing objectives right now.
Yes,
and it feels like people are just letting her walk forward like that.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think that is somebody on Mr. Play-by-Play has to play forward, not necessarily kill the Neith, but just bully her out enough that she's not able to walk in and just get the free 2-1 combo out. There is a fine line between burning the objective. If you really have that quick burst, you have good consistent damage, nobody's very close, that's fine. Grouping on the objective and just putting all your abilities into it is fine. But then you have to know Carr's on that side of the map. You have to know that he's going to be looking for something. So he does get Gold Fury steal. On top of that, with Neith, all you really want to do is just kind of farm out on this side of the map. And I think Carr's doing that exceptionally well. This double stacking build that Neith has, it's not very strong early game. Neith used to be considered like this pretty strong early game character. Her late game wasn't that good. Gore, I think currently, Neith is one of the best late game characters because of just how much damage she has with that ultimate. You're just farming up. I compare it to almost like Jing Wei right now, where you get to the late game, you're feeling really good because nobody can 1v1 anyone on your team because you just have this 1000 damage stun in the late game.
And it's so crazy how good that is because it's global on top of that, right? Like, it's a lot of damage. You get the stun, you help either yourself or a teammate, and you can shoot it from anywhere on the map and hit anyone on the map as long as you've got a little bit of vision. It's really good pressure from Car right now, and I like this. Maybe even forcing Pringles into an awkward spot. That ult being down for a Jing Wei, you know, much like you had just said, that takes away some of your safety. Admittedly, Jing Wei still has quite a bit of safety in her kit, so it's not going to be the end of the world. But as they continue to farm up, this could be a good spot to maybe get Sweet back kind of in the ropes already, you know, now a level down for the Odin. Try to get some pressure on left and maybe open things up for Car to become a heavier carry for your team.
And I think at this point, with the spot this game is in, kind of a somewhat even game, about 2,000 lead for Mr. Play-by-Play. As we start to get more farm into the game, we look at how the later game comps kind of stack up against each other. And as actually I start talking about that, Mr. Play-by-Play pulling this Pyro. Nobody really close enough, but they don't have a ton of burn here.
Now they're damaging it. It should be spotted out. Anubis is just around the corner. Matrix gets, oh my god, they are so clean. It is so rough. Every fight, it feels like Mr. Play-by-Play have had a distinct advantage. But Gold Fury, and now a Pyromancer, they just haven't been able to play around these objectives clean enough to get any of them.
Yeah, and it's one, they don't have the burn that they need. Two, they don't have the secure they need, and Mood's walking up for no reason here. Does have that purification, but that is all he has. Dead. Now a little advantage here for E-Kittens. They just got that Pyro Bomb also. Potential to kind of shove down mid. Crim really can't walk up here.
Your middle tower
This is a dangerous spot. Ult goes one way, Car goes the other. Pringles finds it over the wall. Good kill to help balance something out for them, which they desperately needed. I mean, if we were talking about every objective that Mr. Play-by-Play is 50-50, the last Gold Fury and that Pyromancer, if they go their way, we're probably having an 8,000 gold lead discussion right now about, you know, what are Basket of E-Kittens doing to stay in this game? How do they stay afloat? Things are going so wrong. But instead, we're 2,000 gold, 2,500 gold separating them. A tower now going to Basket of E-Kittens means that they're getting some pressure on the map. And so fights still haven't exactly been their bread and butter, but they're pretty much as into this game as you possibly could be in this kind of position. But with Pringles getting some crit online, we might start to see some of that tune change, especially with damage like this. My god, of layers. Oh man, if he connects right there and has that teleport, we're talking about another kill.
Yeah, I mean, jumping onto, I mean, you saying that Jing Wei's getting her crit online. Sweet just jumped into her and just said, you know, I'm gonna go for this. Gets crit like 3-4 times, and he's just got to back off. Lairs, unfortunately, not able to get the pull onto the Odin. The immunity on the Odin 3 does not allow him to be knocked up. He also has that blink to get out. An interesting 1v1 when it does go to the later portions of this game, the Odin versus the Susanoo, the two junglers. But as stated before, it's not really going to be a 1v1 because of that Neith. So for that, I think Lairs is going to be looking to group a lot. And if you look at these junglers, one of them is level 16 and the other one's level 13. And Odin's a god who's building kind of more utility. He's got that transfer damage, but then he also has this conch, which health, strength, intelligence, not really that tanky, but not all that full damage also. So Odin, while he is behind, he will still be relevant. Susanoo though, level 17 Gore, highest level in the game, going to be doing a lot of damage, and actually Gold Fury pulled.
Yeah, gonna be helpful right here. Walls go up, as you mentioned, from Moods around the Gold Fury. Damage comes down. Snatty will be the sacrifice play, but you've got so many people following up. Good immunity and Aegis from Pringles to stay alive. Does get pulled back by the Hecate. A lot of low health bars on Basket of E-Kittens. You need to get in there and cause some trouble. They're all so low, and it might be a really solid bait if they pull people in. Good crits, good damage from Pringles, and the chase seems to be on Lairs. Wants a little more, finds one, finds two, and maybe has a chase for a little bit more. Hawkins and Sweet are low. Matrix is low and separated from the pack, and Krim gonna march right at him. Misses one, but it does not matter. You've got the jungler to help you out. 3 clean kills, and you lose Snatty for it, but you've got so much more to go. Gold Fury's still available.
A massive fight there, win by play-by-play, and that's because Lair's not in the fight right away. Snatty goes a little bit too far forward, and a really nice ult by Hawken to make Pringles disengage. But at the end of it, they aren't able to kind of gain that distance as much as they need to. So Sano gets a little bit closer, gets the 4-man knockup and kills Carr on the back end, and then Matrix just caught out. Massive swing there by Mr. Play-by-Play. You're talking about 8,000 gold if they confirm those prior gold Furies. They're at about 5,000 now, which is kind of where you're happy with how kind of sloppy this game has been.
Yeah.
It's not sloppy in the sense that the fights are bad or they're not pulling good objectives or anything like that. It's sloppy in the sense that one small play here or there, somebody's zoning the Neath on the Gold Fury, somebody's zoning the Anubis on that Pyromancer, and we're talking, I mean, 10k at this point even. So as this game goes later, as we get to the more team fight pages, I want to see Mr. Play-by-Play, you know, start walking up when you're doing these objectives. This is what I want to see. Moods walking up, making sure nobody can get in. Gore, is anyone stealing this from Basket of E-Kittens this time? I think not. That is a good zoning and a good objective pull by Mr. Play-by-Play.
It's kind of the, you know what? You burned your hand on the stove twice, and it seems like maybe now you learned the lesson. You gotta step forward. You gotta stop them. And like you said, that's exactly what Moods does. I think you can see Snatty kind of taking that presence as well.
Yep.
Now you've got all the Furies, or I guess Fury down, Pyromancer down. Fire Giant might be, you know, a conversation to be having relatively soon. We'll have to look for these two teams, specifically for what Basket of E-Kittens wants to do. Because as you had kind of mentioned, outside of the steals, the fights have been looking really good for Mr. Play-by-Play. And while the Odin isn't out of it, I think that that is a very, very important key to latch onto, because his ults are still effective, his control is still effective. He is 4 levels down, and that is going to impact you in the jungle for what you're going to bring. Moods, meanwhile, is going to be able to help set things up. Into the back goes Snatty. Find someone in the sky. Krim gets damage on everyone with the ult. And now you've got Susano walking on in alongside Snatty. Pringles is split pushing. You're in a 4v5, and it's going great for the 4. Snatty still chasing them down 2 already. And that stun from the Anubis from Matrix might need necessary just to slow Mr. Play-by-Play down. They have been so aggressive and so adept. They get 2 for none.
And that's the classic, let's commit to the support, let's kill him, let's get the pick, and let's get out. Unfortunately, the support is way too far ahead, has the ultimate, has the purification to kind of get out of situations that he doesn't want, and is able to actually kind of bait the enemy team in. Sweet kind of getting baited here. I was a little worried that he's going to overcommit and fully jump in, but that is the bait that Moods wants to do right now. He is very, very tanky. And Basket of E-Kittens don't really have the damage to burst a tank at this point. If you look at what Basket of E-Kittens comp is, it is, once we get to a point, let's lock down the support, and let's just kill them. Let's lock down the soul laner. Let's just kill him. Unfortunately, the damage isn't there. They have the CC, they have the lockdown, but 4 items on the Anubis. You only have 3 items on the Hecate, and you only have 4 items on the Neath. You don't really have the burst to get through that Mordred defense.
Fire Giant started up by Mr. Play-by-Play. Again, Krim and Moods are playing zone, but they're on the wrong side. Still, Fire Giant goes down quick enough that Basket of E-Kittens isn't able to make the loop around. Now Snatty goes in up into the sky with 1. Matrix forced to cancel the ult early, and now is getting chased down. Layers is sitting on his Anubis. You've already got rid of 2, and it is 2 pillars for Basket of E-Kittens that have been removed here. 11,000 gold in your favor. Fire Giant on all 5, and it looks like tower pushing is going to be the name of the game for Mr. Play-by-Play.
When you hear that Mordred ultimate and you're a little bit too far forward, you don't have that escape to kind of get out of there, that is when Mordred is at its best. When you want to take the fight, you need that engage. And Snatty, as soon as Fire Giant's dead, he pulls the trigger, they find the double pick, and now they have a 5v3 for 12 seconds looking to siege onto this right Phoenix.
And you've got pressure, pressure, pressure. Step forward and get aggressive. The walls go up, locked down. The poor Hawken has to ult, but does get out of there, stays alive, and that honestly is going to be more worthwhile for the team. You have someone to set up a defense. Crim maybe overextends, and this Phoenix is taking a long time to burn down. Everyone on Basket of E-Kittens keeps getting chunked to about 1/4 HP, but they're still alive, and that's what matters. Phoenix still standing as well. Mr. Play-by-Play have to back away.
And yes, you just won this 5v5 fight. You got those double picks. Phoenixes are no joke. You kind of need waves to get in to actually truly kind of shred them. They had no wave on the right side, but now that wave is finally there. Another try, this time a 5v5, no 5v3, and no Yamoja ultimate.
Step in. They've got a little bit of damage. Again, the Phoenix, not easy to take down. They have some minions to help work their way in. But you've got, as you had mentioned, the full 5v5, not the 5v3 in your advantage, and immediately Pringles forced to disengage. Still no Yamoja ult. Graham, no ult. Damage seems to be there, but is it good enough? They say players, no! He does get taken down. It takes forever to finally do it, but a shutdown, and it goes 1-for-1, and absolutely worthwhile losing your Bacchus for the jungler, who was level 20.
And the only issue there is that 1-for-1 trade is awesome. The issue is that E-Kittens had no health on their remaining 4. That 1-for-1 is phenomenal if you don't have quarter health on your mid laner, your ADC, and they're forced to go back to base. So not a bad fight there by Basket of E-Kittens. Just a little unfortunate, a little bit too far behind. You're looking at about an item everywhere, which is the tough point at this part. But breaking the base on the side of Mr. Play-by-Play is exactly what they want to do there. Everyone says the most important part of the game, especially when you're trying to snowball, is breaking that first Phoenix, because that puts pressure on that side of the map. At this point, E-Kittens did not push out that right wave. They are 5-manned on the left. Should just be a Gold Fury and reset for Mr. Play-by-Play and get another item onto everyone, almost getting to a point of full builds. And this is kind of like that, you know, we're trying to farm damage, Nua ultimate, but that one right there is one that I really do like. Let's just find out where everyone is. We're not going to be sieging for another 60 seconds. By the time that happens, Nua ultimate will be back up. Let's just see. Are they grouping in right jungle, maybe looking for a pick? Are they maybe trying to find somebody after we get this Gold Fury to look for that pick? So that is like that vision aspect of Nua that I think gets overlooked as I'm damage farming, but it's really just to see where everyone is. And I like when you kind of use ultimates that are used for other things, because a lot of the times you use Nua ultimate, you want it for that damage, but there it's just, let's just see where everyone is, just so we don't get picked. We've got this massive lead. Let's not throw it.
Yeah, vision in competitive is just so helpful. And so grab that, you get to know where everybody's at. Right now, you know that, well, you're grouping in mid if you're Mr. Play-by-Play. Snatty's kind of by themselves. I don't think they're too worried about it, though. The rest of the team grouping up. Basket of E-Kittens kind of matching in kind in mid. And I don't know if we'll have time to talk about it. I keep looking down. I'm just stoked because somebody finally bought death metal, so I've been trying to figure out a way to weave it into the conversation. But I don't know if we're going to get to. Should be popped here, and that's exactly what Pringles is going to do, as well as the Dagger of Frenzy to go in, get pressure onto this Phoenix. Damage is so good. Wow. My God, Sweet gets shredded. Nothing the Odin could do, and now the cage gets taken down. Snatty goes a little deep, but is getting a lot done. The Phoenix might punish him for it, but stays alive. Now with Sweet off the board, 5v4-2. Phoenix is down. A couple of crits could be great from Pringles. The total goal, again, at the end of the game is going to be this Titan. They get another kill on the Matrix, and that might be the one they need to open it up. But the Titan's swinging, and it's swinging pretty hard. You got to play careful still, and Moods does go down. Pringles steps forward with the team. Now the crits are ringing true. The Fountain's doing its work, but the Titan just can't quite accomplish enough. And even though it's going a little haywire at the end, Mr. Play-by-Play put themselves up 1-0 in the set.
And overall, other than the missed objectives by Mr. Play-by-Play,
yeah,
fine game. Not necessarily clean, because I do think they made a few mistakes on those objectives, but that's kind of like the smite I expect to see from some of these names on Mr. Play-by-Play's side. I think they played that one a lot better once they started figuring out, you know, let's zone on these objectives to make sure we just confirm them. And I think there becomes a point when you're snowballing the game when a solo laner can kind of just dive your entire back line. You put all these resources in trying to kill them. They get out one shot, and then you should have no other opportunity to take the fight. Because if you try to do that, your Odin gets one shot. If you try to do that, your Anubis is just going to die also. And that's the most frustrating point when you are behind, is trying to kill that solo laner when they're towing that fine line of putting all these resources into trying to kill me and living. And Snatty does that really well, getting out one shot a couple times there towards the end. And it's a hard comeback for the basket of E-Kittens to make. And an overall good siege to end the game there by Mr. Play-by-Play also.
And you had kind of mentioned it, when we were talking about it early in the game, where you've got this Anubis who, while he's a little more survivable, like if you lean into him, you can punish him. And then we looked at Snatty and we were like, well, that guy just kind of gets out of everything. Like his ult is a get out of jail free card. And that's exactly what he used it for a few times. They get ahead and they put themselves up 1-0. Mr. Play-by-Play trying to move forward, whereas Basket of E-Kittens trying not to get knocked down. We'll find out what happens right after this.
Immortals have invaded my realm, and my children rebel against me. Dark days these are. But my strength shall bring resolution, and my lightning illumination! Zeus!
Bologna.
Anubis.
Sora. Kukulkan.
Satyr.
That's right, StarForgeSystems.com, best PCs in the universe, and they did a lot of extensive testing to make sure they could say that. I cannot get over this case, and the good news for you at home, if you want one, maybe you just got a PC, you have a bunch of upgraded parts, well, good news, you can get it as an empty case just to fill in, you can transfer those parts over easy peasy. Or maybe you kind of need an upgrade right now. Well, I've got good news. This comes full in as well, where you can get it with parts. It is a beautiful, beautiful computer. The one we have in the studio has Scylla on the end plate. It is something that you can change, as you saw, with a bunch of various different gods. Anubis, Zeus, Scylla are on there, Kukulkan, along with a few others, Bologna to mention. It is a gorgeous case, and you want to make sure that you get yours while you can. StarForgeSystems.com/product/smite and pick that up. And then once you have it, well, I've got good news. You could just then use !access in chat. You click that link, then you use SMITE 2 esports as the code. That will give you access to the SMITE 2 alpha. Depending on where you redeem that, you can then get into the game right now, play it on your new StarForge PC, and you see it all comes together, right? It all makes sense, and you can finally start picking up SMITE again in the new engine with the new feel, the new items, new look, pretty much new everything. And speaking of new, we got a new winner of Game 1. That's a passable transition. It's Gore, it's inbound, and Mr. Play-by-Play found themselves up 1-0 in what is a pretty big set for them if they want to be able to qualify straight for playoffs. They need to win here. Same thing could be said, Basket of E-Kittens kind of feeling their backs against the wall.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit at the end of Game 1, and it wasn't a super clean game, but I'm a little bit worried if I'm Basket of E-Kittens, because that was a game that you were in through very little play of your own. Like, a lot of team fights weren't really that great by them. A lot of their team was getting picked. They weren't really playing too well into the later portions of the game. Mr. Play-by-Play was just making a few mistakes in the early game that let this one stay close. And if you saw a little bit of the early game, like the Anubis getting off to this nice little lead, Snatty did a lot more than the Anubis did as the game, went later. And I think that is a bit of a worry when you're going into this next game. I think if you're Basket of E-Kittens, you want to switch up the comp just a little bit. I said Neith is a little bit more of a scaling god. Gore, she didn't get there. She was not even close to getting to that point of being a threat. Hecate or Hecate. I got to get used to that. Hecate also, guys, has to get to that later portion of the game. She didn't really get there either. And if you can't kill Snatty when he's dying, you can't kill Moods when you're hitting him with that CC, that is an issue. And you compare that to the side of Pringles and Crim, but mostly Pringles. A lot of crits, a lot of damage. He got the solo kill. That is where I'm worried if I'm on the side of Basket of E-Kittens. I'm worried about what Pringles is going to do in this game again. And do you ban away the Jingwei? Do you take it? Whatever it is, maybe it's just you play more to that side, less so than you don't give him a specific god, or you take a specific god. You try to put him behind, because there was really no plays by the Odin on that side of the map. The Odin made plays for the Anubis. He made plays in mid lane. And while he did, successfully make a few plays over there, maybe he has to transition that and strictly play to putting Pringles behind instead.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, because and we had kind of talked about this at the beginning of last time, but like, not only do you have to figure out where you maybe try to shut Pringles down and some others, but also, as we'll see in picks and bans here in just a second, you only have a ban to work with if you're Basket of E-Kittens. And so, are you opting to try and take something away? You're now first pick, which is a pretty big deal. That could be where you make this transition, right? If you look towards the Jingwei as a pick for your team. Admittedly, you're then giving up the Odin and a few other things on the other side, maybe even the Emoja, depending on if you ban Fenrir, Baron, all that good stuff. But like this first couple of gods chosen, whether for bans or picks, like this is a very, very important time for them.
And I actually love this portion of P's and B's after a loss. What do Basket of E-Kittens opt to do? As you said, the Jingwei, the Odin. Do you think he was more valuable on that Jingwei than he'll be on his second best god? Do you think it is so valuable you have to ban it? They opt not to ban it. They ban away this Odin, which they picked. And then on the other side, Baron also banned away by Mr. Play-by-Play. So no Baron again. As you stated, we've had one Baron game. He seems to be very, very valuable. But now this Fenrir is available. Basket of E-Kittens had the opportunity to lock it in. The Fenrir is locked in, probably going jungle gore. But again, I don't want to make it seem like this is a jungle specific god. He is valuable for two reasons. The ultimate is very hard to react to with how fast it comes out. And it also just plays multiple roles very, very well. We've seen PBM play it in support. We've seen Nika play it in solo earlier today. And then, hey, how many people have played it in jungle? There's a ton of players. And that's the threat that Basket of E-Kittens get with this first pick, Fenrir.
Yeah, it is. Again, it is incredibly deadly. But as was mentioned, especially, again, with Baron being banned, Odin being banned, you can go for the Emoji. You could grab the Jingwei here, which has been pretty highly prioritized. You might lose out on the Fenrir, and there is going to be some repercussions for that down the road. But then having this maybe potential 1-2 massive punch back, it could simple, really. Kind of right itself, right? You can maybe fix a little bit of what has already gone wrong for you just because of this. They actually go for the Hecate and not the Jingwei. And we had already talked about it, but that ultimate in the right team fight, we didn't really get to see it a lot in game 1. But in game 2, if Mr. Play-by-Play can play their cards right the same way they did in the first game, we might be seeing a lot more control around those objectives.
No ounce of treachery.
And you have that earlier opportunity to make plays with that Hecate over that Nuwa that Krim had last game. So interesting to see how they play around that with this Emoja also. Makes that 3v3 with those two gods very, very strong. Basket of E-Kittens opt for the Mordred, taking it away from Snatty and locking in the Neath again. But this is a flex Neath. My favorite thing about SMITE 2 Gore, and I could talk about this all the time, is how much more flexibility there is with picks. Like, yeah, I mean, Neath could play jungle and ADC and mid in SMITE 1, but most of the time it was played in mid. Fenrir can play multiple roles. Played support, played a little bit of jungle. Easily flexes into other roles. So just seeing how they kind of craft together their comp. Do they want to opt for the Fenrir and jungle, Mordred and solo kind of, which is probably most expensive? Or are they going to do something a little funkier where the Mordred goes jungle, maybe Fenrir support? I just love looking at what they can do with that. And Mr. Play-by-Play locks in this Thanatos where it's kind of getting a little bit more play. It's still, I think, deemed as like an average jungler. But a Fed Thanatos is no joke. You get 1-2 kills early game, you get a couple executes, and you're just off to the races, unkillable and one-shotting everyone.
Yeah, this is going to be very fun to watch. It is always different, though. I feel like, and admittedly, this is just because of how things have been for me, but like I haven't played a lot of Kern in SMITE 2 because I keep getting drawn. Anytime I get thrown to carry, I'm going Neath for the reasons we talked about in game 1. Hitting people with a global 1k ult feels pretty good when you have the damage. But also, it just feels like we haven't really gotten to see a ton of them because normally it is Neath or Jingwei. For a while there, Sol was in that conversation. She's kind of been eliminated from it as of late, but like those are the gods you're going to more often than not, and that's been the trade back and forth. So seeing him picked up makes things interesting alongside the Thanatos. Again, very, very fun. Loki, Hades is the answer. Hades as well, someone who like, what, 2-3 months ago was first pick. You gotta have him or the game is absolutely over. And then he just kind of disappeared for a little while. I like to see that he's still getting picked up.
And a couple interesting picks to kind of round out the comp. As you said, the Hades. But Gore, I think this is going to be a Hades mid lane. Unless I'm missing something, maybe Loki mid or something like that. But only one ranged god on the side of Basket of E-Kittens, so you have 4 melee gods. Usually when you see something like that, it's going to be more of an all-in dive comp. And on the other side, Mr. Play-by-Play locking in this Morgan last. Probably going over to Snatty in solo lane. A lot of pressure over there. But now we have this 4 melee dive comp versus a 4 squishy Mr. Play-by-Play comp where your support is Yemoja. So not a ton of tankiness coming out of the side of Mr. Play-by-Play. And if you're playing Basket of E-Kittens comp, you want to be diving. So I think a lot of this game, eyes on Moods as the solo tank, as the solo main CC character on his team, a lot of stuff is going to be on his shoulders. He's going to be the one that has to start a lot of fights. He's going to have to look for plays, and he's also going to have to peel. A lot of pressure on that Yemoja player. Yeah,
again, something I think that we saw, and pressure might weigh down a little heavier on the shoulders because we were putting a lot on them because of the fact that the zoning wasn't going too well, right? I mean, up front, like around the objectives, we were already saying, hey, moods specifically, like step forward, Snatty, step forward, get something done over here. Add in this fact that suddenly you, like you said, are a little less tanky, or you're going to have to use your transformation in order to go for something like a zone. It's definitely going to make it precarious for Mr. Play-by-Play. Also going to say now, going to take a couple more minutes remaking the lobby, real quick reset for the players, but once they get in, once they get their God's Pick, we'll jump into game 2 as quick as possible. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you about this Morgan because it does feel like there are good transformations in this game to the point where you might have trouble. Like, is Fenrir just above and beyond the best one to grab every time?
I think Fenrir is a very good transformation. I think it kind of depends on what he ends up building. I think Fenrir is a really good transformation when he's building like a tankier, ultimate-oriented style where his job is to pull a relic or to just pick somebody up and try to kill them. I think if you're playing full damage Fenrir and you have the opportunity to transform as Morgan, you're not really setting it on Fenrir as like a set it, forget it, because there is opportunities where you want the survivability of a tank, and there's like Morgan, I don't know, tech, I guess, where you have it sat on a character that is just very easy to turn into, where if you get ganked or somebody blinks onto you, or for any reason you're just in trouble, you just transform into this tank or this highly mobile god to get out. Usually going to be a tank just because they survive a lot easier. If this is full damage Fenrir, you're not really setting it on Fenrir. If it's full damage Fenrir, it's probably Mordred, maybe Hades as the set it. If I get ganked, that's what I'm going to transform into. But if this is tank Fenrir, hey, trying to kill a full tank Fenrir with the 2 dashes, the CC immunity ultimate, the movement speed on that ultimate also, and then also trying to play team fights where he is also still the best character to turn into, there's a lot of value there. And that's what I expect if it is more of a tanky Fenrir. The Morgan, I think, pretty obvious. What are her issues? Not a ton of CC, usually doesn't build very tanky. Even in Smite 2, she builds a lot more damage in her build, a lot more cooldown. So having that CC opportunity, having that tankiness, I think that's where he's going to look for or look to. And on the side of not having a ton of tankiness, Mr. Play-by-Play's comp, I think having 4 damage dealers, only 1 tank, is easier in Smite 2 because of the variety of actives that your support has access to. It used to be a really big worry where maybe you had Yemoja as your solo tank. She might just get picked up by Fenrir and just killed. But now she can opt for that purification beads early. She can opt for just going beads outright because there's not a ton of super strong relics where I have to get Shell every game. I have to get Sunder every game. If there is, I want to kill this Yemoja and I'm the Yemoja, I can opt for just going beads and purification. And I think those actives have helped that a lot.
And it's going to be very fun to watch, like you said, see what actives, what relics they go to kind of juggle this to maybe make it possible for Basket of E-Kittens. The only way to find out is in game 2 as we get down to it. Basket of E-Kittens, if they lose this, they are not eliminated from the Founders Series, but they are eliminated from Swiss. They will get knocked down into the last chance qualifier, that is stage 3, where they will be awaiting teams from the open bracket to play in a group setting in order to try and qualify for playoffs. Meanwhile, if Mr. Play-by-Play can win, they get to move forward. If Basket of E-Kittens win, well, it's a best of 3, which means we go the distance and figure out what happens next for either of those teams. But it is pressure on the Order team this time around because of their positioning. 1-0 lead for Mr. Play-by-Play. And the question falls at their feet of to how they are going to take this game, especially maybe not quite as tanky. I'm really interested in this Snatty Matrix matchup because it feels kind of opposite from last time. Snatty was on the Mordred and Matrix was on the Mage. Now having Snatty on a Mage, especially one that admittedly has, I would maybe say, less range overall than an Anubis, right? Everything's a little closer. Yeah. It's going to make things interesting for Mr. Play-by-Play solo lane.
Yeah, and it's as you said, it's a squishy versus tank matchup, but it is a different squishy versus tank matchup where Morgan isn't really turning a gank. I mean, she could by, you know, Fenrir ulting you into tower, something like that. But Anubis wants to kind of fight in his abilities. He wants to fight when you're ganking him. He's not really running away. Morgan kind of is on the opposite side of things, where she just wants to live the gank by invising away or turning into a tank and jumping away. She's not really trying to transform. So Snatty doesn't really have that outplay potential that Matrix had, but he does have a lot of survivability still. And with how Basket of E-Kittens have kind of crafted their comp, they've put that Fenrir into support. Tank Fenrir, they have the Sweet on this Loki in the jungle. A lot of burst on the side of E-Kittens on that gank. I think Mordred's damage, even when he does build tanky, is a little surprising because he has that extra ability in that dash. He's got the CC from that. And then you combine that with Sweet's burst of Boombas. Then he has just his 1, his 3, his ultimate, a little bit of CC. It's going to be tough for Snatty to live, especially pre-5. But again, once he hits 5, easy transform into Fenrir. Trying to get out. I am putting a lot of pressure onto Snatty to transform into this Fenrir, where if he doesn't do it very often, or if he decides to play a different god, I'm going to look a little silly. But I think there's just so much value with the Fenrir, it just makes the most sense.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this, just because, admittedly, also because we didn't get to see a whole lot from Sweet last game, right? So I really want to see what this Loki can do. Fenrir just always feels good no matter where he is, so I'm curious to see where that's going to end up going, and like you said, kind of the trajectory for this game as a whole. For Basket of E-Kittens, I also am curious about the pace. We saw this in the last game of EMEA, where things kind of slowed down, and it was really because of a lot of pressure. Speaking of pressure, poor Hawken. I mean, what are you going to do? There's 3 guys showing up over here. There's not a lot. What a rotation. Why is Pringles over there?
That is one where it's like, if this works, this is going to look really good. But imagine Hawken doesn't dash there, and he just stands in autos, and Pringles is just sitting in the jungle just waiting for something that's not going to happen. That is a risky play, but Gore, when you get that. Okay, I was talking over that like Krim was not going to die. That was actually really close. And a lot of action kind of towards mid for both of these teams. Lairs is already 5.
Yeah, it could cause some trouble. My god, Layers barely able to get out of there. That was a close call for Krim and Layers, and a little bit for Hawken, but mostly, yeah. I mean, these other two, and like you said, just a lot of pressure showing up in mid, kind of out of nowhere. I mean, it just seems like both the teams decided, you know what, yeah, let's go fight and see what happens. And like you said, with Layers already being 5, this could cause a lot of trouble. Snap. Why? Guys, we are sub 5 minutes. Why are you rotating so fast, so heavily? Snatty. Well, he's going to fall back, but it's not only a rotation, it's a transformation on top of that, plus pressure onto Hawken.
And Gore, you stating that there, like, usually we don't see these rotations that fast. It allows me to bring up something that's kind of newer to Smite 2, and it's those portals out of base. Added not too long ago. They just kind of transport you slowly back to lane. And I think it allows you to kind of make these plays. Carr able to blink out of that combo by Pringles, both using blinks. So a little blink trade there. Carr maybe a little susceptible to a kill, but so is Pringles. No CC immunity on either of them. But these teleporters, they kind of allow you to clear the wave, walk to a different lane, make a play in that lane. If it works, great. Like Pringles did. It works, great. He gets the kill. He walks back to lane instead of teleporting, but on the other side of things, Snatty looks for that play, doesn't get anything, or he just teleports back and he doesn't even miss the wave.
Sometimes it's that simple, I guess. Maybe it's just the playmakers making plays. I mean, look, they call him Mr. Play-by-Play, and I really do appreciate the fight they have behind them. 1,000 gold, 5 minutes in, that first blood really working out. I'm keeping my eye right now on Layers, who should be catching Hawken. But it looks like they're going to deviate, change their paths just a little bit, and not quite run towards the Hades. This is another thing we haven't gotten to talk about in a long time, but Hades' self-heal potential, a lot of the self-heal potential, because, you know, Fenrir is going to have it, Neat's going to have it as well. Like, Basket of E-Kittens, if they're not burst down, if they're given a chance to kind of recuperate, they do have the potential to heal back up and restart a fight.
And they 100% do, and it's beyond that, I think it's something that hasn't been talked about enough or you know, stressed as much. It's very, actually, ultimate used by Moods here, but it's just going to be trading out for that Phantom. Does get him under tower, but going to be Phantom Burn and Carr. Lord, that is just a big misplay by Carr there. it's either a communication issue or that is just an outright bad play by Carr walking back up. After the Phantom was popped, there was just no reason to do that. He puts himself into harm's way and gets killed for that.
Yeah, left in a bad spot. You put a second kill on the board for Mr. Play-by-Play. Maybe thankful it goes to Moods, but
yeah,
there's only so much you can do about that. 2 assists now for Pringles, because, again, for some reason, he was in mid when he got first blood. A big assist on that, and it does open up plays like this. Gold Fury burned fast, and exactly like you say, I mean, a good play because it's just so wide open.
And it's quick and decisive plays by E-Kittens by Mr. Play-by-Play this game. Comparatively to last game, it almost felt they were playing Farming Simulator for the beginning portion of the game, just trying to get to that late game portion, get to level 20s. It was once the mid game hit, they actually started to try to make plays. This game, they opt for I almost say like the same amount of aggressiveness in terms of the gods that they have, but they're just fighting more often. And it's either a confidence thing, or B, let's just take it to them and make them nervous. Because if you're the one making the play, the enemy has to make a counter play. So you're making them make a decision very quickly. And if you're a newer team, or if you're newer to comp, that's probably the hardest thing. Thinking on your feet is a very, very tough skill to learn. And until you're put in that situation, there's nothing really that does it quite like that.
When Neathult comes out, targeting layers, Hades is able to lock down one, but maybe one is locking down him because you get the transformation from Snatty. They are successful. Tower dive on to layers, gets the kill, and now the lockdown Snatty. Not a lot of places to go. There's 4 people here with an unofficial 5th coming from Carr in that ult. And so a lot of pressure, 2 kills, and a good turnaround for Basket of E-Kittens.
And a good play to kind of slow down this game a little bit by Basket of E-Kittens. 4 people rotating over there, but it does net them a double kill, and it's still Carr farming in left lane. They got the wave also in right lane, but a good counterplay by Moods here. Instead of just, giving it up, let's just go back to lane, let's just farm up. He actually opts for the invade and takes that away from Kuzumbo-chan, from Sweet. So a little bit of a cross-map win for Mr. Play-by-Play. Granted, maybe not a win, considering you did lose 2, but making that 2 not nearly as bad is a very, very clean play. And kind of going back to last game, Mordred, when he gets ahead, he wants to look to proxy, but really far forward, he has the ult, though.
Should and is incredibly safe.
I thought that was going to be close score. I put it up there like, and can he get far enough? Okay, he was far and away far enough.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about it last game. Sometimes that hey, I can run through walls feels pretty good in terms of being able to set you up and just absolutely get out of there. Carr, speaking of setup, trying to go for something here against Pringles. Might not have found it the way he wanted. In fact, Pringles blinks forward, forces a blink out of the other side. I will be honest, I did not glance down at the relics till this point. Did not realize both of them had the combat blink online as opposed to... I mean, you had mentioned it. We've been seeing a lot of shells. Aegis has been a pretty popular, pickup. But for both of them to go for the blink, as well as already having disengages, it's a pretty interesting choice from the carries.
And on top of having that escape with the movement, there's a lot of CC potential on both teams. If Pringles gets caught out by Mordred ultimate, Loki ultimate, Neath ultimate, Hades ult, Fenrir ult, like that's a lot of CC and a lot of damage where his positioning is going to be very important. And while Carr not nearly as worrisome as Pringles is, he still does have to worry about Snatty turning into somebody with CC. Yamoja's ultimate, if he does get combo lockdowns with the 1, if he had already used his jump or something like that. Lairs is stun. So this is like a risky play by both of these ADCs, but honestly, I'm a lot more worried for Pringles because, as I said, there's so many CCs and so much damage on the side of E-Kittens where if he's caught by 1 CC, he might die.
Well, speaking of caught by 1 CC, might die. Hawken has to play safe. Good dash! And that's all you need. Layers not reading that one, or maybe thinking he could land a little quicker. Does not find the kill, and Hawken gets to stay alive, but they did burn a lot of utility in mid. And again, the pressure is being applied, and might even see that here. Matrix way deeper in the jungle than I thought. For a second, I thought we were on the order side of the map, and I was going to accuse Snatty of going for an invade, but no, it's Matrix, who is in the middle of the enemy territory and does not seem to have a care in the world or a worry in the world about it.
Yeah, and Matrix is massive right now. Level 12. He's almost got the spike that Mordred gets that's really, really strong, where it's just Mystical Mail into Soul Reaver. He only has those components so far, but once he does finish that Reaver, this Mordred build does so much damage, and it's very hard to get away from him. And he's also tanky enough where, unless you're focusing abilities onto him and bursting him down, you're not going to be able to kill him, because Mordred's a funky character. I think a lot of people forget how much sustain he actually has when he hits that one in the sustain stance instead of the bonus damage stance. So he's got the sustain from that. He's got the physical protections. There's not a ton of magical burst coming out, especially with how most of these builds are in mid. Both mid laners opting for those Chronos pendants because that's just the strength right now. And a massive rotation to the right side by E-Kittens. Free Gold Fury by Mr. Play-by-Play. Another confident play by them.
And the zoning, like last time around, we had to talk about it because, you know, Carr walked up, stole a Gold Fury, a Pyromancer got stolen from him by Matrix. This time around, not only have they been zoning, admittedly, they haven't really needed to, but it's been a good level of control, much like you said, where I haven't stressed once about these objectives, and it has led to 3,000 gold. That's going to be a small chunk stripped away on the other side, thanks to the tier 1 tower getting knocked down in right. Again, the first objective, first tower, I should say, of this game. But you're going to need a lot more than that if you're a basket of E-Kittens to try and climb back up. They've been finding pressure, and that's where I actually turned my eyes to this Finner. I feel like we haven't really gotten to see a whole ton from Kuzenbo-chan to get the ball rolling.
A little bit of a fight in mid. Actually, Crim loses speeds.
And I said, oh my god, the damage as well. No chance to even think about getting away there for Crim. And a good collapse from Basket of E-Kittens. Look, I'm saying you need a little more. There's your little more, and now they're putting pressure. Tier 1 tower. You do have pressure being applied. Snatty in right is going to be split pushing. Same thing for Pringles. But you've already lost the tier 1 in mid. You need to be careful if you're Mr. Play-by-Play here. You might lose your tier 2.
They're actually opting to go for this tier 2, though. Lairs is here. This is a 2v4. It seems like it's just more of a... Actually, the damage is insane there by Moods. Gets a lot of damage on it. Sweet taken down. Looks like a little bit of a disengage here by Basket of E-Kittens. And a... Was that a 5v2 in mid won by Mr. Play-by-Play? I think that was a 5v2.
I'll give them 3 if you want to count the tower, but yeah, it was a 5v2
Fair.
That they were able to turn around, and a lot of it's just this presence. It's so interesting. The 2 levels still for layers, like things have been going well. Hawken gets picked on the retreat. I mean, and Mr. Play-by-Play to bounce them off, you get a tower and left, you rotate in, you get a kill, you only lose tier 1 in mid. Like that's actually a really solid set of traits for them.
And through all that, Pringles is getting waves, Snatty is getting waves. Yes, even though Crim died, the other team isn't spending too much time farming, but Pringles a little far forward here. Neathult is available to get vision, but it seems like he's smart enough to disengage just a little bit too early. Basket of E-Kittens not able to make that response. And on the other side, Snatty picks up that Pyromancer. Now it is a middle game portion, and this is when SMITE really can either go insane and you can blow up your lead, or you can kind of slow it down and kind of maintain it, because you have to look to make a play here. There's no Gold Fear for a little bit. There's no Pyromancer. So are you going to go for the tier 1 in middle? Are you going to go for the tier 1 in right? And I think when we looked at what's happened in mid so far, Sweet's not really making plays onto Crim. Crim has not had any threat really at all, other than that first death that he had right there, because the plays are being made on Hawken. Lairs is just wrapping around making plays. Pringles is wrapping around making plays onto Hawken. Even Snatty from solo lane is rotating and making plays onto Hawken. They're making this Hades very uncomfortable, and Crim's really not getting the same treatment. And I think a lot of it is just Lairs shows up to a lane, ganks it quickly, and gets out. If it doesn't go well, who cares? Sweet's not really opting for that. He's not really even ganking that much. The most ganks he's having is more like 5v5 or 4v4, 4v3 fights. It's like more team fight oriented. And even through that, Lairs is out farming Sweet by 2 levels.
Yeah, and that presence on map means so much more for the team, especially as a Thanatos. Like, it just feels like the damage numbers you're going to be able to put up. I feel bad saying it this way, because I feel like we've seen a lot of Basket of E-Kittens as a group. I don't know if I've really gotten to see too much of an individual where I'm like, oh man, Sweet made a sick play there. And so I do want to see them group up a little bit more, but I'm a little worried a lot of the success they found in groups have been against Mr. Play-by-Play, not in groups. Now they'll try to do it up against this Gold Fury. I was just praising your zoning. They need to get a little more done. Gold Fury goes to Mr. Play-by-Play. Fight afterward. Looks like it's gonna fizzle out before it can even really start. Basket of E-Kittens. They don't want to catch those hands right now.
Yeah, I mean, and can you blame them? For the most part, Basket of E-Kittens, unless your name is Matrix, you're not feeling like you're in a great spot right now, but a fight is looking to be taken by them.
They're stepping forward. Snatty is very invested in this, maybe a little bit too much. The Fenrir very deep, but has some backup, goes for it, picks up one with the ult, uses the beads on the other side to make sure that they can stay alive, or the purification, I should say, coming in from the Emoja. Hades ult pulls in 3, a lot of damage, a lot of healing, but it does not find a kill just yet. Somehow, all this action, they're all still kicking. Death Scythe off the mark, does not matter. Auto attack, Layers has what he needs, but now a 1v2. But you're Thanatos, and you're doing way better than you should be. This need is chunking you. Slowly fall back. Meanwhile, fights happening on the other side of the board. Crim does go down, so it's 1-for-1. Fenrir manages to get out of there. Carr is low, but has a tower for safety. Low health bars, Mr. Play-by-Play. Up in the jungle. Seems like that might be where they call it. And a lot of action. 2 kills come out of it.
An extremely janky fight there by both teams, and Snatty also pushing that left tower. Maybe he's a little bit too far forward and might actually get picked here. Gets rooted by Matrix, and Snatty's dead. He just overstays, and that kind of explains that entire fight. It almost felt like everyone on Mr. Play-by-Play side of things was fighting their own 1v1 or their own 1v2. Layers was diving the back line by himself. On the other side of things, Matrix was killing in a 1v2. It was just a very strange fight, and another fight is happening, and Pringles is just dead.
Another strange fight, I would say. Layers, again, off the mark with the ult. Still gets the kill, but is off the mark with that one. Mood stays alive. Very interesting engage. Maybe they thought the rotation was going to come over a little faster, but you go 2-for-1 this time, and the kills are tied back up. It's still 5,000 gold separating the two teams. Mr. Play-by-Play has a pretty healthy lead in that department. But it's been a couple of very interesting choices for them as far as the engages have gone on the side of Mr. Play-by-Play.
Yeah, and I think you look at this point in the game, this last 2-3 minutes, even though weird fights in terms of like how they're fought, not necessarily where they're fighting, it's been in the favor of E-Kittens, because this farm lead isn't getting pushed by Mr. Play-by-Play. I said either you're blowing up the lead or nothing is really going to be happening. Unfortunately, they're trying to make plays, but it's just nothing is happening with those plays because they're just trading 1-for-1 and 2v2, and they're not really fighting over anything that gets you this massive lead. So while Mr. Play-by-Play maybe won a little bit with these fights, they're not really winning in the gold department. The gold lead is sustaining, it's not growing, and I think a lot of this has got to be on the side of Matrix. Matrix is huge right now, and he's playing these fights very flawlessly. And at this point, he's almost to that point where he is almost unkillable, Gore, while also doing enough damage to threaten you, make you worried about your positioning. Because I've seen Pringles, who is a very confident player, be caught out and worried in some scenarios.
Well, now might need to be worried the other way around, though. It's going to be E-Kitten who are getting chased down. Carr, the one who's caught out. And now you got the Fenrir just dead to rights, and leap over the wall is not enough to get away here. And slowly, I mean, just collapsing one by one. 3 kills for Mr. Play-by-Play, all found in the jungle, all in a few seconds. And now, what do you want? Pyro, fire, towers? It's all yours for the taking if you're Mr. Play-by-Play.
And just a massive blunder there by E-Kittens. We were just talking about how fed Matrix is, and he's like the one that's kind of keeping them afloat. They group up and they look for a fight without him, and they were at a deficit. Massive misplay there by E-Kittens, and now Mr. Play-by-Play will be able to extend their lead, get this Fire Giant, reset and spend their gold. And it is a very tough time trying to siege against the Emoja with Fire Giant, because one, Fire Giant is giving you a lot of stats and it's giving you a lot of sustain. Emoja also gives you a ton of sustain. So if you're not able to burst somebody on the side of Mr. Play-by-Play, you are not going to be able to win these fights.
Big amounts of pressure, large amounts of pressure, I should say. In mid, like you said, this is I think everybody's full health. The shield keeps getting re-upped here by Mood, so a good job on that department. But just has enough Omi to trade this around. Knocks down the tier 2. I do admire the level-headed play here by Mr. Play-by-Play, because they're recognizing that it's still a 5v5. They still haven't been as clean as it could. Yes, you're 10,000 gold up, maybe a little more now with that Pyromancer. But you're not going to go crazy. Just, I like the call to fall back, clean up a little bit, maybe even spend some money. I don't know how much they have in pocket, but then you start to get re-aggressive. Then you can find your way back into this and open up the conversation for maybe a fight against Basket of E-Kittens.
Able to spend that gold is rather important, but an awkward gold theory there by Mr. Play-by-Play. Glor, again, it's these objective issues. It's just a weird timing call. They're off the map. They're just not grouped around this gold theory. And granted, Ancient Fury is not nearly as strong as it was when Ancient Fury was brought about. It is now only weakening the outermost tower in every lane. It is still a big advantage to have, especially when Phoenix is exposed. That middle Phoenix is weaker with that Ancient Fury, but they opt to go for the Gold Fury before resetting, so that even if they got that Gold Fury, they wouldn't have had as much uptime on it. Just an overall very strange play there by Mr. Play-by-Play. And I don't know if it's like, we're up 10k, let's just do this quickly before backing. No thoughts of what is the enemy going to look to do? What are they going to look to play around with this? Are they going to contest this? Are they going to look for a fight? And just another weird fight here. Lairs even being able to be killed, forcing his blink ult. Very weird here by Mr. Play-by-Play.
Yeah, Hawken is looking for the chase. It doesn't seem like they're going to find the engage. Tier 1 tower was what Lairs' main goal was, and it seems like that was achieved. You've got Crim in the jungle. Might actually be able to find... I was going to say cut off path, but instead, like you said, big silence. Nothing massive in terms of follow-up yet. Purification gets used. And survival is the name of the game for Basket of E-Kittens. Lairs finally goes in with the ult taken to the skies, though, by Matrix. It's a back and forth, but Sweet taken down. Matrix shut down now. The 5-0 turned to a 5-1. Still got a tier 2 tower to go through over here. Does not seem to have been on Snatty's radar. Instead, aggressive ult into the right side. Phoenix gets some damage laid out there, but forces the team to kind of come bail him out instead of pushing down these objectives.
And Snatty with all this physical protection in that Morgan build, not a lot of damage is going to be able to hurt him because Hawkins too far behind in his build, can't even contest this. Almost gets one. He does get one shot at that point. Now 5v2 opportunity with this Yemoja to maybe put away this game. 10 seconds on Sweet.
Well, now, yeah, you're in a great spot. Like you mentioned, Sweet's gonna respawn. You get a good kill though, rotate it out, and now the Titan is your primary target. Sweet comes in, and Sweet's gonna have to get a lot done here, but I just don't know if Basket of E-Kittens has what it takes, and they do not. Mr. Play-by-Play, stay alive in Swiss.
And I think we can kind of see why Mr. Play-by-Play is in this 0-2 slot. They have very high highs. Don't get me wrong. Very good team fights, very good objective play at some points, but they also have these very low lows. And I think it's that consistency that they need to kind of flush out and figure out to put their best self forward, because if they can't do that, really good teams are going to be able to exploit that. Basket of E-Kittens, not the greatest day. A few mistakes here or there. Not just overall like macro play, more micro things where 1v1s are missed, 2v2s are missed. I think if we are talking about a more together team from Basket of E-Kittens, I think Mr. Play-by-Play could have been exploited a little bit more there.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking about it a little bit because Mr. Play-by-Play, it was very good, like, groupings, especially in the early game, good gank presence we had mentioned. But the actual rotations and well, maybe not even rotations, that's the wrong term. It's the objective control, right? The zoning, that's what I wanted to say. Wasn't really the best feat. I mean, we saw 2-3 objectives in game 1 and at least 1 in game 2. If it weren't for everything else going their way, that's where Basket of E-Kittens was finding a lot of that fight back. So there are, like you said, a lot of leverage plays and places for teams potentially against Mr. Play-by-Play in the future. But it is nice to kind of see them, again, dig their heels in and push back. For Basket of E-Kittens, and this is always worth mentioning right now, that's not the end of the road. That's just the end of Swiss for them. They are now going to be waiting in stage 3, just for the teams that end up there, right? We're going to be taking the bottom 8 from Swiss, top 8 from the open bracket that's currently going on in North America. Those teams will combine in some groups. Meanwhile, Mr. Play-by-Play, as we'll show in this bracket, which is going to explain it way better than I can because Swiss gets complicated really fast, they're going to move over to that 1-2 zone. Any teams that lose there, they're going to be facing the same fate as the teams in the 0-2 area. But if they win, you go to 2-2. And if you find yourself in the 2-2 area and win, you go straight to playoffs. So there's still hope for Mr. Play-by-Play. And like you said, if they can clean up some of this game, we might get to see them make a run like that.
Yeah, and I don't want to take away anything from Mr. Play-by-Play because when they did dig their heels in, as you said, there was very, very good play. And if they can keep that up going into this 1 and 2, it's going to be a very scary team to play against.
Well, now that we've looked at the bracket, we've gone through this set, and admittedly, it's the perfect time right now to take a look at the schedule, because what are we watching? When are we watching? A couple of off-air games, again, if you want to watch those. There are places, people who are streaming them on Twitch. Where we are going next is that Saturday, 5 p.m. food drive for Globe versus Team, but with 5Ms. And you know, Inbound, we talked a lot about like name power. Team, but with 5Ms has the name power. Food Drive for Globe has a little bit of name power, right? They've all been around playing competitively for a while. But this has been a team that has taken Smite 2 specifically by storm and been playing incredibly well. I am really excited. One of these teams is going to qualify for playoffs, which makes this even more tantalizing to watch.
Yeah, and all you said it perfectly. If you win this one, you're in and you make it into playoffs. If you lose, you still have that opportunity. But these are two very strong teams. I'm excited to see how Food Drive for Globe can play against this team with 5Ms, because this is a different team. They've played against Cowabunga. They played very good. They played against Scrumptious. They played very well. Team with 5Ms, this is a pressure situation. Has Food Drive for Globe really been in these pressure situations before where if you win, you're making it into these playoffs? Not really. And team with 5Ms, or a lot of them were there last year at Worlds in a win or go home type of games. They're all used to the pressure. So it's a good game in terms of both are very talented teams, but there is pressure on the line with this game. And that's what makes Swiss so awesome.
Yeah, and again, it's not the end of the road if you lose this one, but being able to sit back, be in playoffs so you get to skip an entire phase, like it would be pretty comfortable, as you'd said, to win this. So we'll see who can come out on top after this quick break.
In Georgia,